Hello students, a very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to Unacademy. Hello everyone, good afternoon. This is a class on the Anglo-Norman period of the history of English literature. In my previous class, I have already talked about the Anglo-Saxon age. I have completed the Anglo-Saxon age, and today's class will be on the Anglo-Norman period, which is also known as the Middle English period. Before starting today's class, I want to give you a brief introduction about myself. But before that, I would like to request you, please like this video and share this video with all your friends so that many more students can join in my class. Please like this video and share this video, and also please subscribe to the channel. So guys, my name is Brishti Mukherjee. I have qualified NTA UGC NET exam in English literature 3 times and West Bengal SET exam this year. I have 10 months of teaching experience. I have also topped in my graduate course, and I have topped in NPTEL online course from IIT Madras 3 times. So that's all about myself. Before starting, I would like to inform you about Unacademy. As you all know, Unacademy is the largest learning platform in India. If you want to access Unacademy, first of all, you need to go to Play Store and download the Unacademy Learning app. This is the logo. You can install it. And after installing it, you should click on the category of NTA UGC NET. Okay. And if you want to take subscription, you can click on the subscription plan option. And here you can see the 12 months and 24 month subscription plan. And if you use my referral code Brishti10, this is my referral code. If you use it, you will get a 10% extra discount in your overall price. Okay. So please join Unacademy. It will definitely help you to crack your desired exam. Okay. So let's begin today's class. Now, after the Anglo-Saxon age, the period from 166 to 1340, the period can roughly be divided in these year slots. So from 166 to 1340, this period is known as the Anglo-Norman age, or the Middle English age. Anglo-Norman age or the Middle English age. Now, who were the Normans? The Norman people were actually the descendants of the Vikings. Now, who are the Vikings? In my class on Anglo-Saxon age, I have told you that Vikings were the Norse people. Vikings were the Norse people who came from southern Scandinavia. They were called the Vikings. Okay. And who were the Normans? The Normans actually were the pirates from Denmark, Norway, and Iceland, who invaded European coastal areas in 8th century. So that is the identity of the Norman people. From their name came the name Anglo-Norman. Okay. So the Normans were the pirates from Denmark, Norway, and Iceland who invaded European coastal areas in the 8th century. So Normans actually means inhabitants of Normandy. So from Normandy came the word Norman, and from Norman the age is named Anglo-Norman age, or it is also known as medieval age or Middle English age. And the literature produced during this time is known as the medieval literature. So in this class, I will talk to you about some important Middle English literary pieces like Middle English alliterative poems, metrical romances, Middle English chronicles, etc. So I will cover up all these details in this video. Yes, good afternoon everybody. Please share this video and like this video so that many more students can join. Now, a very important historical event during this period is the Norman conquest, which happened in 166. Please remember, 166 is a landmark year in the history of English literature, the very first important historical event, you may say. So what happened in 166? Norman conquest. What is Norman conquest? What is the background? We will discuss in detail. So the last Saxon king's name was Edward the Confessor. Okay. And during the reign of Edward the Confessor, there were a lot of chaos. Why? Because he failed to manage the quarrel among lords. So there were a number of feuds inside the kingdom of Edward the Confessor. So that created a kind of problem in his kingdom and also destroyed the peace and the unity inside his own kingdom. And what happened that he finally died without any heir. So that is also a problem. Who will be the next king? That is a big question. Now, William, Duke of Normandy, I have already talked about the Normans. So the Duke of Normandy, whose name was William, he was somehow related to Edward. Okay. Somehow related to Edward the Confessor. So naturally, he demanded that he was the rightful heir of the throne. And after the death of Edward the Confessor, since he had no children, naturally William should become the next king. But the country people decided Harold the second to be crowned as the king. Harold the second was the Earl. So the people have decided to crown Harold II as the king. Now, naturally, William will not be very pleased listening to that, right? So that is the major background of Norman conquest. And when Harold II became the king, William became very angry and he decided to revolt. He decided to launch a battle against Harold II. So that was the major background of Norman conquest. Okay. So this battle is actually known as Norman conquest. And Norman conquest has a number of battles, a series of battles were fought. Among them, in the Battle of Hastings, which was the last battle, Harold II finally defeated. So William won the battle and Harold II defeated. Now what happened? William was crowned as the King of England. So that is the result of the Norman conquest. Okay, that is the result. So what was the conflict then? William wanted to become the king after the death of Edward the Confessor, but the country people chose Harold II, who was the Earl, as the king. Naturally, William became very angry. William attacked his kingdom and finally he won and he was crowned as the King of England. Here Norman conquest ends. So the whole battle is known as Norman conquest. When was it happened? In the year 166. Very important year. Now, why is it so important? I have already said that Norman conquest is a very, very important historical event. Now, why was it so important? It is important because, first of all, it acts as a dividing line between Anglo-Saxon and Anglo-Norman age. So that is an important thing, that as you have already seen that in Anglo-Saxon age, there is not so much historical events happened, but during the Anglo-Norman age, this is the very first event. And as I have told you already, that Anglo-Norman age actually started from this year. So this year naturally marks the end of Anglo-Saxon age and the beginning of Anglo-Norman age or Middle English age. So the Old English period ends and the Middle English begins. That is why this year is very, very important. Now, what is the next effect? William's French supporters were rewarded with lands, and thus a new feudal system of rule of aristocracy emerged. So a new class of people came who were called the feudal class. So the feudal system came into being for the first time in England. Why? Because the supporter of William, the French supporter of the Duke of Normandy, William, after when William became the king, he rewarded them with lands, and thus a feudal system emerged. That is another important thing. A new kind of class emerged, a new kind of aristocratic class came into being for the first time. So it also brought a big change in the societal hierarchy. The societal hierarchy. Now, if we look at the language or in the field of literature, what happened? That French language gained prominence. Okay? And Old English became the language of the lower class. So the French language was prioritized. It became the official language, and the Old English language, which means the Anglo-Saxon language, became the language of the lower class people. So that was its importance was decreased. Okay. Now, next point is chivalric and knightly virtues were prioritized instead of the heroic note of Old English. This is an important development in the field of literature. So what happened? That chivalric and knightly virtues were prioritized. When we will talk about metrical romance, you will see that the major characters are all knights or the some chivalric person. Mainly King Arthur and his knights were very, very prioritized. Their characters were almost idealized, you may say. Okay. And the heroic note, the note which we had found in Beowulf or other heroic poetry, which I have discussed earlier, that note was almost decreased. And this note was prioritized. So this became the main theme of the poem during the Middle English age, to uphold the chivalric and knightly virtues. Okay, clear? And another important thing is that they established Christianity more firmly. So in Middle English poetry, you will find some alliterative poems which were mostly based on Christian themes. So earlier there were also Christian poems, as we have seen in Cadmon and Kinewolf. But in this, after the Norman conquest, in the Middle English period, what happened? That Christianity was established more firmly. It gained more importance in society and also in literature. Sixth important point is the bleak melancholic tone of literature was changed into a spirited light-hearted one. It is an important change in or shift in tone. As I have already told you in the Anglo-Saxon age, that during that time the melancholic note was prioritized. There were a lot of elegiac poems, right? As I have talked about, a lot of elegiac poems were there, and the bleak tone, the sad tone, the lamentation were there. But in Middle English period, this tone was changed into a spirited, light-hearted one. So the whole tone of the poem or the tone of literature was changed. That is an important development. And allegory became a very, very important genre. That is also interesting. What are the other important effects? First of all, you can say that legal practice, the rules and the regulations of legal practice were also changed. The forms of justice were developed. Okay. And many new economic groups were also developed in society. That is also another effect. Another thing is that in the field of architecture, some new building practices were also developed. New styles of buildings were developed. That is the development. That was the development in the field of architecture. Okay, and a major architectural creation during this time was the Tower of London. Tower of London. This was created. This was actually built during the medieval age or after the Norman conquest. So these are also the important effects. Now we will come on to medieval literature. Medieval literature or Middle English literature. So if we divide Middle English poetry, it can be classified into 4 types. Okay? It can be classified into 4 types. So what are the 4 types? The first one is Middle English Chronicle. Second part is Middle English Metrical Romance. This is very important. And the third part is Middle English Alliterative Poetry. And fourth part is Religious and Didactic Poetry. So as you have also seen that in Anglo-Saxon age there were some specific types of genres which were developed. For example, the Bible translations, the sermons, the hagiography, and also the heroic poetry. I have already discussed them. So like that in Middle English period also these genres came into being. The Chronicles were also there in Anglo-Saxon age, but in this time this genre was more developed. So in Anglo-Saxon age there was only Anglo-Saxon Chronicle which was important, but in Middle English age you will find a lot of chronicles related to the history. Okay, so it became an important genre. Another is metrical romance, which I have talked about. The chivalric and knightly virtues, these were prioritized in metrical romances. Okay, knightly stories were there, and there are some alliterative poetry and also religious and didactic poetry. So these are the 4 important genres of Middle English poetry. Now we will talk about all these genres in detail in this video. Hello Vita, hello Naresh, hello everyone, hello Manoj, everybody. A warm welcome to my class. Thank you everyone. Okay, so now first of all we will talk about the chronicles. The first important chronicle, Geoffrey of Monmouth. Geoffrey of Monmouth is actually the name of the chronicler. Okay. The name of the chronicler. Now, who was Geoffrey of Monmouth? Geoffrey of Monmouth was a Welsh monk born in Monmouth. So Monmouth was the name of the place, and from there the name came Geoffrey of Monmouth. So actually his name was Geoffrey, but as he was born in Monmouth, so it was said that his name is Geoffrey of Monmouth. Okay, and he was a Welsh monk. Now Geoffrey of Monmouth wrote 3 Latin works in his lifetime. So what are the 3 Latin works? Among the 3 Latin works, only one work is very important, that is Historia Regum Britanniae. I know the pronunciation is very complex because it's a Latin name. Historia Regum Britanniae. What does it mean? It means the history of the kings of Britain. So from the very title itself, you can guess that it is purely a historical document of all the legendary kings of Britain. It is actually a collection of all their reigns. So Historia Regum Britanniae is his famous work published in 1155, which in English translation means the history of the kings of Britain. And Geoffrey of Monmouth actually worked for 20 years in the College of St. George. In the College of St. George in Oxford. in the College of St. George in Oxford, and during that time he actually composed all his literary works. So the history of the kings of Britain begins with the settlement of Britain by Brutus, the great grandson of Aeneas. So it was believed that you have all heard the name of Virgil's Aeneid. So it was believed that the settlement in Britain began with the hand of Brutus, who was the Trojan hero. Brutus the Trojan, actually his name. Brutus the Trojan. So from his name, actually the name Britain came. Okay. Brutus the Trojan, the great grandson of Aeneas. So the book opens with this story. How Britain, the country of Britain was settled, was established by Brutus the Trojan, the grandson of Aeneas. Aeneas is the famous hero of Virgil's Aeneid. Okay. Now, this work, the history of the kings of Britain, borrowed heavily from Venerable Bede, Virgil, as I have already said, and Gildas. These are the names of the inspirers who inspired Geoffrey of Monmouth to write this work. Venerable Bede, the famous work of Venerable Bede is Ecclesiastical History of English People, the famous prose writer of Anglo-Saxon age. So from Bede's work, from Virgil's Aeneid, and from Gildas's work, Geoffrey of Monmouth borrowed the material, borrowed the informations for his chronicle. And a large part of the book talked about King Arthur and his knights of the Round Table. King Arthur is a legendary king, and you can find the mention of King Arthur in almost all the chivalric knightly works written during the Middle English age. So King Arthur plays a very important role as a character or as a figure. Okay, so King Arthur and his knights of the Round Table, they actually, you can say that the character of King Arthur was first introduced in this chronicle, Geoffrey of Monmouth's chronicle, the history of the kings of Britain. So it begins with the story of Brutus, how Brutus established the land of Britain, and a large portion of the book actually deals with King Arthur and his knights. Now, why this chronicle is very important? It is important because later this chronicle has served as an important source for King Lear, Mottedy Arthur, and Idylls of the King. Very, very famous work. You all know King Lear, the famous Shakespearean tragedy, Mottedy Arthur, and Idylls of the King. This is written by Tennyson. Mottedy Arthur is written by Thomas Malory. So this work served as an important source for all these famous work which were written in later ages. That is why it is very important, very significant historical document of the Middle English age. Yes, Virgil's Aeneid. Virgil's Aeneid is the important source for this work. Now, the next important chronicle is Layamon's Brut. Now, what is Brut? Brut also means chronicles, but Brut is a vernacular term. Okay, Brut is a vernacular term for chronicle. This is known as Bruts. Now, Layamon is the name of the author, and these Bruts actually talk about the legendary history of England, particularly. Okay, so from Britain, you can say the word Brut. Brutus, from Brutus, the word Brut has come. So the historical chronicles in vernacular language is known as Bruts, and what is the main theme of the Bruts? They actually deals with the legendary history of England. So the history of legendary kings and heroes of England. These are the major subject matter of brutes. Now, Layamon's brute. Who is Layamon? Layamon is the author of the brute. Layamon was an English poet and a priest, so he was also a religious person. Okay. His brute begins with the story of the foundation of Britain by Brutus. As I have already told you, that in Geoffrey of Monmouth's chronicle also we have seen that the chronicle begins with the story of Britain's foundation by Brutus, the grandson of Aeneas, okay, and who left Italy in search of a new land. So Brutus left Italy in search of a new land, and thus he discovered a new land called Britain. So how Britain was formed, this settlement was described in this chronicle also, in Layamon's chronicle also. And it ends with their arrival at the island of Avalon inhabited by giants. Whose arrival? The arrival of Brutus and his army. The arrival of Brutus and his army. So the first part talks about how Brutus founded Britain as a country, and the later part talks about the journey of Brutus and his army to the island of Avalon. The island of Avalon is actually inhabited by giants. So there is also an element of adventure here. Okay. So this is all about Layamon's brute. Now it is influenced by Oasis' La Romane de Brute. La Romane de Brute is a work written by Oasis, and Layamon's brute is mainly based on Oasis' La Romane de Brute. It also have references to King Lear and King Arthur. In this chronicle also we will find references to King Lear and also King Arthur, written in alliterative verse. So these are the important informations related to Layamon's brute. Clear? Now, the next important point, the next important chronicle is La Romane de Brute. I have already told you La Romane de Brute was the major source for Layamon's brute. Now we will learn about La Romane de Brute. La Romane de Brute was written by Oasis, and it is nothing but a French version of Monmouth's Latin work Historia Regum Britanniae, the history of the kings of England. Ma'am, please थोड़ा हिंदी भी use करिए. I am not so fluent in speaking Hindi. That's why I am afraid of using Hindi. But yes, I will try. There may be some mistake in speaking Hindi, so please overlook that. Okay. Now, this is about the French version of Monmouth's Latin Historia Regum Britanniae, the history of the kings of Britain. Okay. So this is the Latin work, and Oasis has actually written a French version of the same work. It focused mainly on King Arthur's reign. As I have already told you that King Arthur was a very, very important figure in Middle English literature. So you can see here that each and every chronicle has a reference to King Arthur. Okay, so this chronicle has also reference to, or it actually mainly deals with the King Arthur's reign, and it is dedicated to Queen Eleanor. Okay, Queen Eleanor. मैम अब डेली क्लास होगी है ना यहाँ पर कविता. My class schedule is from Monday to Friday at 3 p.m. in this channel. Okay, so I will meet you again on Monday at 3 p.m. That is the schedule, and I will soon start my special class on Unacademy app. So I will tell you about the schedule of my special class at the end of this class. Now, the next important chronicle is Robert of Gloucester's Chronicle. This is another important chronicle. So, see how many chronicles were written during the Middle English Age. So, Robert of Gloucester. Gloucester is the name of the place and Robert is the name of the person. So Robert was the monk of Gloucester. That is why his name is given as Robert of Gloucester. This chronicle has 12,000 lines. काफी बड़ा poem है, right? 12,000 lines. It deals with the history of England from the beginning of Stephen to the death of Henry III. It covers a long period of England's history from the beginning of Stephen. Stephen is the name of a king, up to the death of King Henry III. That is the time span of the chronicle. And again, a large portion is devoted to King Arthur. It is mainly based on Layamon's Brute. That is why King Arthur's reference has come here. Drew upon Layamon's Brute. Okay. Now, the next important thing is the story of England. This is another chronicle. It was written by Robert Manning of Broome. Robert Manning of Broome. The names are a bit complex because it was the medieval English term. So please try to remember that. Robert Manning of Broome. The story of England is divided into two parts. The first part is based on Wes. Wes means Wes's La Romandie Brut. And second part is based on the Anglo-Normal Chronicle of Langtoft. Langtoft is the name of the author. So as you have seen Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, in the same way Anglo-Normal Chronicle is also there. So this book is based on Wes's La Romandie Brut and also Langtoft's work Anglo-Normal Chronicle. Clear? Now what are the two parts talking about? First part talks about Noah and the Great Flood. आप सब जानते हो बिब्लिकल फ्लड के बारे में, आप सभी को पता होगा. And this biblical flood is very similar to the mythological flood which is described in our Hindu mythology in Vishnu Puran. So that story is given here, the Noah and the Great Flood. Noah's Ark, आप सभी को पता होगा Noah's Ark का story. So the first part talked about Noah and the Great Flood, and the second part talked about the story up to the death of King Edward I in 1307. So the two part describe two types of stories. Okay. It was completed on May 25, 1338, and it was believed that it was completed between 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. midnight time. So it was believed that Robert Manning actually wrote it between 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. and it was completed in May 25. Wes is not place. Wes is the name of the author who has written La Romandie Brut. Okay, I have written here Wes to suggest the chronicle written by Wes, La Romandie Brut. Wes is the name of the author. As Layamon is the name of the author, in the same way Wes is also the name of the author. Now the next important work is Harley Brut. Harley Brut is anonymous work. We don't know the name of the author. It has 3,359 verses. Very, very long poem, right? And it is actually 5 fragments. So it is divided into a number of fragments. 5 fragments translating Geoffrey of Monmouth's work with some gaps from Arthur's campaign against Emperor Lucius and Lucius's death. So this work is also based on Geoffrey of Monmouth's work, and it is actually a translation from Monmouth's work. Which part is translated? Arthur's campaign against Emperor Lucius and Lucius's death. This part is translated in Harley Brut. Now, that is the end of the chronicle portion. Now we will move on to the religious and didactic poetry during the Middle English age. The first important religious poetry is Ormulum. Ormulum is the first important religious poetry. Now, what is Ormulum? Orm is the name of the author. Okay. Orm is the name of the author. Who is Orm? Orm is an Augustinian monk. That's why I have said that it is a religious poem written by a monk. Okay. Augustinian monk, and it was written in Northeast Midland dialect. Clear? But the tragic part is that only 20,000 lines survived. So the whole poem is not available, only 20,000 lines available. So imagine that the poem is longer than 20,000 lines. We don't know how many lines were actually there in the poem, but only 20,000 lines finally survived. What is Ormulum all about? Ormulum is actually a series of sermons arranged chronologically. So it is actually a chronological arrangement of some biblical sermons. And according to Orm has himself described that my purpose to write this work is to explain the Gospels to the ignorant folk. So the main purpose is to explain the Gospel, the biblical sermons and the Gospels to the ignorant folk, to the common people who have no detailed knowledge about religion, who have no in-depth knowledge of Latin language. So how will they understand Bible? So for their convenience, Orm has written this work, Ormulum. Okay. So Orm himself has said that my purpose is to explain the Gospels to the ignorant folk. Okay. Now, next important poem is Karsar Mandi. Karsar Mandi. The title means the runner of the world. It is also an anonymous poem of 30,000 lines, written in 8-syllabled rhymed couplets. Okay, this is the metrical pattern. 8-syllabled rhymed couplets, 30,000 lines. And important thing is that it is dedicated to Virgin Mary. What is the plot about? It tells the story of the world from creation to the judgment day, covering both Old and New Testament. So the whole story of creation in Bible, the creation of the world, as I have already told about, that the story of Noah's Ark, the great flood, how the world is created, how Adam and Eve are created. So all these stories were there up to the judgment day, covering both Old and New Testament. So you can say that it is a kind of paraphrase of the biblical themes. Karsar Mandi. Please remember the meaning, runner of the world. This is important. Okay. Brajesh Verma. Hello. Hello Brajesh. Hello. Very, very good afternoon. Now, the next important poem is The Owl and the Nightingale. This poem, this is not a religious poem actually, this is a didactic poem. I have told you that the religious and didactic poetry, this is the group, Middle English poetry. So this falls under the group of didactic poetry. Owl and the Nightingale is a very important text. Why? Because it was the earliest example of debate poetry. In this poetry, the whole poetry is actually based on a debate between these two birds, owl and nightingale. So the first example of debate poetry can be found in this poem. Who wrote it? The author name is not known, but critics attributed the poem to Nicholas de Guildford. This was the attribution. Remember, this was the attribution. This is not proved actually that Nicholas de Guildford has written this work, but it was attributed that maybe this work is written by Guildford. And it was written in octosyllabic couplet. When you will read the poems of Chaucer, you will find that many of his poems are also written in octosyllabic couplet. This is a very important verse form. as I have already told you before, while talking about the effects of Norman conquest, that a number of changes had come after the Norman conquest in the field of literature and also the writing style. The style of writing poetry, the first forms were also changed. That is why octosyllabic couplet were used a lot during this time. So this poem is also written in octosyllabic couplet. It is a didactic poetry, I have already told you. And what is the plot about? The Nightingale opens the debate. So Nightingale starts the debate, mocking the owl as the symbol of evil. So in our Hindu mythology also we considered owl as a symbol of evil. The sound of owls crying is considered to be ill omen. So Nightingale actually accuses owl that that you are a nocturnal bird and you are the symbol of evil. So that is the main point of debate. And what happened, that the debate remains inconclusive. The author acts as a mediator and provides reconciliation. So no solution has come. Who is better? The owl is better or the nightingale is better? But to end the debate or to provide some kind of reconciliation, the author came. The author means Nicholas D. Guildford. He came as a mediator and provide some kind of reconciliation just to end the debate. Okay. And critics have also interpreted this poem, this debate, as a debate between art and philosophy, pleasure and aestheticism, and love and religion. So this poem can be interpreted in multiple ways. Rupali, hello Rupali, welcome. Multiple ways. So that is all about Owl and the Nightingale. The next important work is Handling Sign. Handling Scene, what you may say, Handling Scene or Handling Sign. Now, Handling Sign is a work written by Robert Manning of Brune. Okay. Written by Robert Manning of Brune. And this work is actually based upon Manual Despatch, a work by William of Waddington. So, this is the source of the work, Handling Sign. What is Handling Sign all about? It is a religious poem. It talks about 10 commandments and 7 deadly sins in the Bible. Okay. That is the story. Now, the next important poem is The Prick of Conscience. This is the title of the poem, written by Richard Rolle of Hampole. This is the name of the author. Hampole, maybe Hampole is the name of the place, I think. Richard Rolle is the name. So it is called Richard Rolle of Hampole. It is divided into 7 parts and a prologue also. Okay. What is the plot all about? It deals with worldly life, joys of heaven, torments of hell, suffering, death, etc. So it actually talks about the journey of human life, how the worldly life is, how can we endure all the sufferings and problems of human life, what happened after death, what will happen if we go to heaven, what kind of torture should we face if we go to hell. This all kinds of religious things were described. And the title shows the poet's hope for repentance. That is why the word prick is used, the prick of conscience. The prick of conscience means it actually helps you to repent for your misdeeds, and when you repent, your soul will be purified. That was the belief. Repentance is considered to be the way to purgate your soul or purgate your bad emotions. So the title shows the poet's hope for repentance, that repentance will change a person. Repentance will make someone good in nature. Okay, so that was the belief about title. Now, the next important poem is Poema Morale. Poema Morale is, it is not so important. It is a poem of 400 lines where poet requests the readers to follow virtuous path. So you can say this is also a kind of didactic poem. where the poet advises the readers that please follow the path of virtue, remain in the path of virtue, so that you will go to heaven and enjoy the bliss of God. So that is the advice of the poet towards his readers, poema more. There were also some other religious and didactic poems. The plot lines are not important, but you need to remember the names. The Origin to Our Lady, Genesis and Exodus, the Moral Ode, etc. So these are all the other important religious and didactic poems. So from here, I think everything is clear to all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Kavita. Thank you. Okay, now we will start alliterative poetry, a very important genre of Middle English age. What are the alliterative poetry? First of all, you need to know what is alliterative revival. This is a new genre which was actually arrived almost redefined, you may say, during the Middle English age. Now, what is alliterative revival? Alliterative revival is actually a 14th century literary movement. What was the movement all about? Movement shows renewed interest in Old English alliterative rhyme with slight changes. So the alliterative verse form was common during the Old English age. But when new forms of verses developed in the Middle English period, the alliterative verses were, the importance of alliterative verses were somehow decreased. But this poem, that is why, this movement, that is why it is said alliterative revival. So it actually revives the interest in Old English alliterative verses with some changes in metrical pattern. So the revised form, the renewed form of Old English alliterative poetry in Middle English age is known as alliterative revival. That is why revival. Okay. And in the Cottonian manuscript preserved in the British Museum, 4 alliterative poems are included. Okay, so as you have already known that in Anglo-Saxon age we have talked about 4 major manuscripts. Similarly, in this age, Middle English age, the single important manuscript is Cottonian manuscript. This is the name of the manuscript, and it was preserved in the British Museum. So in that manuscript, 4 alliterative poems were found, and it was believed that all the poems are written by the same author. But who is the author? We don't know his name. But it was believed that all poems are composed by the same author. Class timing is actually from class timing Monday to Friday from 3 p.m. Rupali. From 3 p.m. I will meet you in this YouTube channel from Monday to Friday. So today is Friday. I will meet you again in Monday. Now the first important alliterative poem is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It is one of the best Arthurian romances. Obviously, you have already also heard about the name, I think, the Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So it is 2530 lines arranged in unequal stanzas. Unequal stanza form, 2530 lines. Preserved in Cottonian manuscript. Now, what is the plot? You need to know the plot in detail. This is an important point. What happened? That a knight arrives at King Arthur's court wearing green dresses and mounting on a green horse. So the knight's name is not given. He is called the Green Knight. The Green Knight, because he wore green dresses and mounted on a green horse. So one day he arrived at King Arthur's court. You can see that the appearance is also very, very striking, right? Green dress, green horse. So once he came to King Arthur's court, what happened? that he challenges one of Arthur's knights to strike him a blow on the condition that he will receive same blow in return after 1 year. So he came and he challenged one of Arthur's knights to strike him a blow, to hit him actually, to hit him. And he also gave the condition that you will now you will hit me, and 1 year after I will hit you back. Okay, so you will have to receive another blow in return after 1 year. That is the condition. Now only Sir Gawain accepts the challenge. Sir Gawain is one of the knights of the Round Table in the court of King Arthur. So Gawain accepts the challenge. Gawain strikes him a blow. What happened? That after 1 year, as per the condition, Gawain sets out in search of the Green Knight. And finally, he reaches a castle. So Gawain came to a castle. Now, in the castle, he is cordially welcomed by the lord and lady of the castle. As you all know that during that time, the knight were given some extra honor. The knight were the highest hierarchical people, and they were also very honored. It was a significant post at that time. A knight came. Naturally, the lord and lady of the castle welcomed him. Now what happened? Every day when the lord goes out, his wife insisted Gawain to make love to her. So his wife, the wife of the lord, the lady actually, the lady insisted Gawain to seduce her. But Gawain has some knightly virtues. Gawain doesn't like that. But finally, he actually surrenders. What happens that on the third day of their meeting, she offers a green girdle to him, which he accepts, which he has to accept actually. Gawain cannot refuse it. So the lady offers a green girdle to Gawain as a token of love, and Gawain finally accepts. Now what happened? On the scheduled day, that means after 1 year, the day of their meeting, Gawain finally meets the Green Knight. Gawain meets the Green Knight and slightly injured by him. The Green Knight will strike him a blow, and Gawain is slightly injured by him. Later, Gawain came to know that the knight is actually the lady's husband, the Green Knight. The Green Knight is actually the lord of the castle, and he is the husband of the lady. So Gawain became very embarrassed. Gawain throws the girdle away in shame. So Gawain realized that he had done a mistake. He had violated his chivalric virtues. That's why he threw the girdle away in shame. But the Green Knight requests him to keep it. Green Knight asks him that please keep the girdle, don't throw it away. Since then, all Arthurian knights wear a green girdle. So that's how their feud, their debate has been solved. And after that, all Arthurian knights wear a green girdle. So that is the story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So you can see that the main theme is always the knight and the chivalric virtues, as I have told you. Now, the next important poem, this is also very important poem, Pearl. Pearl is the name of the poem. Pearl is also preserved in Cottonian manuscript. It is a dream allegory. Okay. It's a dream allegory, and 1200 lines divided into 20 sets of 5 stanzas. Okay. Each having 12 octosyllabic couplets. So the structure is a bit complex. Total lines 1200. Total stanza 5. 5 stanzas are divided into 20 sets, and each set having 12 octosyllabic couplet. This is the verse form. It was influenced by Vulgate Bible. The story of Pearl is also very beautiful story. I will tell you the story. In this poem Pearl, we have seen that the poet has lost his daughter and visits her grave very often. So the poem begins with a lamentation. A father has lost his daughter and he regularly visits his daughter's grave to lament, to go back to the days of the past. Okay, the poem begins with the lamentation. Now what happened? One day, the father, that means the poet, falls asleep on the grave. He falls asleep and dreams about a beautiful land with a stream. He dreams that he is in a beautiful land with a beautiful stream, a romantic place. Now the poet sees his daughter dressed in pearl ornaments on the other side of the stream. The poet sees that he is standing in a beautiful land. There is a stream nearby, and on the other side of the stream, the poet sees his own daughter who is wearing beautiful pearl ornaments. She is standing on the other side of the stream. Now, what will be the reaction of the father? The father will be very happy, naturally. So, the father is very excited to see his daughter after a long time, and he wants to cross it. So he is standing on this side and the daughter is standing on the other side. The father sees his daughter and he is very much excited. He is very happy and he wants to cross it to meet his daughter. Okay. But when he wants to cross it, the girl prevents him. The daughter prevents him. That don't cross it. Why? Because the stream can only be crossed after death. So the river is kind of a boundary line between life and death. So nadi ke is par life, nadi ke us par death. So the girl says that no, father, you are still alive, you can't cross the stream because the stream can only be crossed after death. So don't try to come near me. The poet feels sad, but the girl assures her that she is very happy in her heavenly life, and at last the poet sees her in a procession of virgin brides led by the lamb. So the poet visualizes that her daughter is again going to heaven in a procession of virgin brides and led by the lamb. Lamb, you all know, lamb in Bible, in Christianity, lamb is considered to be a representative of Jesus. The innocence of lamb is considered to be the representation of Jesus. So finally the father sees that her daughter is going to heaven with some virgin brides and led by the lamb. At this point the poet wakes up and is filled with new spiritual realization. So in previous time he was actually lamenting for the death of his daughter, but now he has realized that no, my daughter is not with me, but she is happy. वो जहाँ भी है वो खुश है. That is the theory. So she is happy and the father is filled with new spiritual realization. So father realized that no, death is not the end of everything. Death actually starts a new life, a new journey towards eternity. My daughter is enjoying that journey. So there is no point of sadness. That is the realization at the end. Very beautiful point. Now, the next important poem is Patience. Patience is also preserved in Cottonian manuscript. It has 531 lines. It tells the story of Jonah and teaches the virtue of patience. It is basically about the virtue of patience. Why should we keep patience and the importance of patience in life? That is the main plot. This is not so important. Pearl is very important. Pearl and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. The next important poem is Purity, which is also known as cleanness. Now the purity, the cleanness is not only about the cleanness of your body, but the cleanness of your soul, the purity of your soul. That is important. Also preserved in Cottonian manuscript. The title not only means chastity but freedom from all sorts of vices. That is the purity of the soul. So your soul will be pure only when you will be free from all those vices. That means all those 7 deadly sins. So only then your soul can be purified and your soul will reach heaven to get the bliss of God. And this poem talks about the supreme value of purity of soul, that is preached here. Okay. The next poem is Winner and Waster. Now this is a kind of political allegory. Okay. This is also a dream poem. In his dream, the narrator sees 2 armies preparing for a battle. This is not so important, but the political element is there. That's why the title is important. Winner and Waster. The narrator sees that 2 armies are preparing for a battle, and it is satiric in tone. It satirizes the contemporary society and the culture of the kings a little bit. That's why it is, the title is important. Winner and Waster. Now we will come on to another important section, that is the metrical romances. Okay, this is the most important part of literature during the medieval time. What is metrical romances? First of all, you need to know what is romance. Metrical means medieval, but what is romance? Romance is not associated with love. Okay, that is not the thing. So romance is actually a popular literary genre flourished during the 12th to 14th centuries. As you have seen that in Anglo-Saxon poetry, in Anglo-Saxon age, heroic poetry became more famous. Heroic poetry was most prominent genre. In the same way, in medieval literature, romance became very important. Romance means the stories of heroic adventures of ideal knights. Okay. So in metrical romance, knights are the most important figures. Okay, as you have seen that in Anglo-Saxon poetry, the legendary heroes like Beowulf was important. In the same way, in metrical romance, the knights were the most important character. Ideal knights, they actually upheld the ideal chivalric virtues. They were the main characters. Chivalric virtues are the major things. So that is the romance, and it replaced the old English heroic poetry. Clear? So that is a romance, and it is called metrical romance because it is written in medieval age. Now, what are the metrical romances? 12th century poet Jean Baudel has classified metrical romance into 4 categories. This is a very important note. 4 categories. What are the 4 categories? The matter of Rome, the matter of France, the matter of Britain, and the matter of England. Okay. So in these 4 categories, the romance actually divided by Jean Baudel. Now we will talk about all these categories in detail. First of all, the matter of Rome. The matter of Rome deals with the stories of classical adventures. Who are the heroes? Alexander the Great, the Trojan War, Siege of Thebes, and Adventures of Aeneas. These are the major things. So the classical adventure stories, the Roman heroes are mainly discussed here. That is why the matter of Rome. Matter here means the story. Okay, the story or the history, you may say, the history of Rome. So who are the heroes? Alexander. The Trojan War is described. You all know the famous War of Troy, Siege of Thebes, and the Adventures of Aeneas. These are all described. For example, King Ali Sundar. King Ali Sundar means King Alexander, and Roman de Troy. This talks about the Trojan War. So these are included in matter of Rome. Now the next important part is the matter of France. What is matter of France? Matter of France mainly deals with Charlemagne. You have heard the name of Charlemagne in history, the famous French king. So Charlemagne and his knights became the important character. Their adventures, their journey is described in Matter of France. For example, these are the title of some romances, and this is the title of the collection, you may say. So in Matter of France, some romances are Chassot de Rola, Sir Ferambras, etc. They are all the French heroes. So this is all about Matter of France. The next important is the Matter of Britain. The Matter of Britain is actually concerned with the exploits of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. In Matter of Britain, these poems are included. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, I have already told you. This is the most important. Other poems are Arthur and Merlin, Eowyn and Gawain, etc. These are all Matter of Britain. So you need to remember that in which matter, which poem actually falls. Okay. Now, the last one is Matter of England. Matter of England is based on English history. Now, who are the English heroes? King Horn, Havelock the Dane, Guy of Warwick, etc. They are the English heroes, which is described in Matter of England. Now we will talk about Anglo-Norman prose. Okay. Anglo-Norman prose, the first important prose is Ancrine Rule. This is attributed to Richard Poor. This is the name of the author. It is divided into 8 books. Now, why is it important? It is important because it is a book of guideline for nuns. It is a kind of manual for the nuns. And the title also means Rule of Anchoresses. So from the title you can guess that it is actually a book of rules, a kind of guidebook, guideline for the nuns. Okay, so it also has a religious touch. The next important work is The Travels of Sir John Mandeville. It was originally written in French by John Mandeville, and it talks about his travels through Europe and Near East. Clear? So this is all about Anglo-Norman age. I have completed the Anglo-Norman age in one class. I will meet you Monday at 3 p.m. with another interesting topic. So please subscribe the channel before leaving, and also please press the bell icon so that you will be notified when I will come live in the story, in the channel. So don't forget to subscribe it, and also please like this video, share this video with your friends so that many more students can join, and the class will be more enjoyable then. So as I have told you that I want to remind you one thing, that from Monday to Friday at 3 p.m. I will come live on this YouTube channel, and from Monday I will launch my first special class on Unacademy app. Okay. I will launch my first special class on Unacademy app. The class will be on 8 a.m. Monday at 8 a.m. In this class, I will talk about the Canterbury Tales, the very famous work of Chaucer. Canterbury Tales will be discussed in detail. So please share this information with your friends, and don't forget to join me on Unacademy app Monday at 8 a.m. Okay. Before leaving, I would also want to remind you that please use my referral code Brishti10 to get extra 10% discount in your next Unacademy subscription. I hope this class is very enjoyable for you. I will look forward to see all of you in my next class. So meet you Monday again. Keep on watching, keep on learning. Thank you very much. Bye bye. All the very best.